One thing a girl gonna do is duck accountability. Like, real shit. How the fuck they'll do some shit, get you to react, and then make your reaction the issue? So now they ain't gotta be accountable.
Family and friends remembered the life of a Baltimore woman killed in Cincinnati, Ohio. Cincinnati authorities say 33-year-old Diamond Rice died after a woman shot her Sunday night.
She called 911 herself. Think about that for a second. The woman who pulled the trigger was the one who made the call. And when the dispatcher picked up, she said 3 words that have haunted this case ever since. She's gone. Not I need help. Not there's been an accident. She said, she's gone. Past tense. Certain. Like she already knew exactly what she had done before anyone else did. Cincinnati police arrived at an apartment on May Street in the Walnut Hills neighborhood, just after 10 p.m. on February 1, 2026. They found Diamond Rice, 33 years old, with a gunshot wound. They tried to save her. They couldn't. Diamond was pronounced dead at the scene. The woman she had been in a relationship with, 31-year-old Jasmine Blake, was taken into custody hours later. And what followed was a story that started pulling back layers most people weren't prepared to see. But before we go any further, I need to stop and ask you something. Diamond Rice was not a headline. She was a real woman. Daughter. An advocate. Someone who had survived the hardest parts of her own life just to be stolen from the people who loved her. Stories like hers deserve to be told, and told right. If you believe that real people deserve real justice, not just in the courtroom but in how their stories are remembered, then please like this video right now. Subscribe to 3 AM Files. Click that bell so you never miss a case. Costs you nothing. But for families like Diamond's, knowing the world is paying attention means everything. Do it now and then stay with me. Because this story is only getting deeper. Diamond Rice grew up in Baltimore, Maryland. And if you know anything about growing up in certain parts of Baltimore, you know it is not a gentle upbringing. Diamond had run-ins with the justice system as a teenager. She found herself inside a system that, for a lot of young people, becomes a revolving door. You go in and you never quite find your way out. But Diamond found her way out. And the road she took to get there is one of the most remarkable things about her. A non-profit called Youth Advocate Programs (YAP) came into her life when she was young. They assigned her an advocate, a real person, not a bureaucrat, not a caseworker shuffling files, someone who showed up for her. And that changed the entire direction of her life. She later said about that advocate, "When she came into my life, I saw myself able to exist in other spaces." That one sentence tells you everything about Diamond's emotional intelligence. She didn't just receive that gift and move on. She decided she was going to become that gift for other people. She earned her CDL. She drove trucks professionally. She relocated to Cincinnati at 30 years old, started fresh, enrolled at Northern Kentucky University pursuing her bachelor's in social work, made the president's honors list, and became the assistant director at the very same YAP organization that had once helped her. She was also working toward becoming an author. She wanted to tell her story. She just never got the chance to finish it. Now here is where the psychology of this case starts to get uncomfortable, because we have to talk about the relationship between Diamond Rice and Jasmine Blake. And we have to talk about it honestly.
Then why you let you post it then?
Nobody cares.
Then why you let you post it?
Every time somebody asks me about... She died. She died.
By all accounts, they were a couple. They were living together in that apartment on May Street. Diamond's mother, Wanda Salmons, confirmed it. Her father confirmed it. The prosecution confirmed it in court. What we do not have, at least not publicly, is a clear picture of what the dynamic inside that relationship actually looked like day to day. But there are fragments, small pieces that, when you line them up, start to form a shape. The night Diamond died, Her father Scott Rice spoke to her around 8:30 p.m. She was already in the middle of a disagreement with Jasmine. He told her, "You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, Diamond. So whatever it is, just fix it." That was the last conversation he had with his daughter. Around 90 minutes later, she was dead. So what happened in that apartment between 8:30 and 10 p.m.? That is the question nobody can fully answer right now. What we do know is that the argument escalated to a place where a gun was introduced. And what the prosecutors have argued is deeply important here. They stated in court that police found no indication that Diamond was armed in any way that would have threatened Jasmine Blake's life. No weapon found on Diamond. No injuries on Blake significant enough to suggest she needed to use deadly force to protect herself. And yet Jasmine Blake's attorney walked into that courtroom and said one word: self-defense. Now, here's where I need you to really think with me, because the self-defense argument in domestic situations is one of the most legally and psychologically complex areas of criminal law. It gets used in two very different kinds of cases. Sometimes it is the truth. Someone trapped in a cycle of violence finally fights back and the law has to reckon with that. But sometimes it is a legal strategy designed to reframe the narrative, to take a person who used a weapon to end a life and position them as the victim. The question the jury will eventually have to answer is which kind of case this is. Here is what makes it disturbing. Jasmine called 911 herself. She told the dispatcher that Diamond was going to kill her. But police arrived and found Diamond dead with a gunshot wound and found no evidence that Diamond had been armed or posed a lethal threat. Those two realities cannot both be entirely true. Something does not line up. And that 911 call, those 3 words, "she's gone," keeps pulling at me. 'Cause think about the psychology of that moment. If you genuinely believed your life was in danger, if you had just done something terrifying in self-defense, the first thing most people feel is shock, panic, disbelief. They stumble over their words. They don't know what happened. But "she's gone" is calm. It is past tense. It is final. Now, I am not a prosecutor and I am not in that courtroom. I want to be clear. Jasmine Blake has not been convicted of anything yet, and her defense has every right to make their case. But behavior in the immediate aftermath of a violent event is something psychologists study extensively because it often tells us things that words alone cannot. And the words chosen in that 911 call are something I cannot stop thinking about. Then there is another layer entirely. Diamond's mother, Wanda Salmons, said something in an interview that I think has gone underreported. She said she tried to reach out to Jasmine Blake's mother after Diamond's death. She said she knew this family. She did not get a response. She said what she wants most is to look Jasmine in the eyes and ask her one question: why? Not a legal question. Not a courtroom question. A mother's question. Why did you take my daughter?
Honestly, I tried to reach out to Jasmine's mother because I know them, and I didn't get a response, but I just want answers from Jasmine on why did she do this to my daughter.
Why did you take my daughter? I think about what that moment would look like. 2 families connected by love and then by tragedy. A mother who raised a woman who dedicated her life to saving young people, now standing on the outside of a justice system waiting for answers. And that question, why, is the one the evidence alone may never fully answer. Because legal guilt and emotional truth are not always the same thing. A jury can deliver a verdict. But a verdict does not explain what was going on inside that apartment for months before February 1st. It does not explain what Diamond's last 90 minutes looked like. It does not tell us whether there were warning signs that got missed, whether people around them saw something they did not say, whether Diamond herself had any fear that she was not sharing. That is what haunts domestic violence cases specifically. The private architecture of a relationship, the patterns, the control, the fear, the love that gets tangled up in all of it, that architecture is usually invisible to everyone on the outside. Even the people closest to the couple often only see the surface. Diamond Rice stood at a podium in November 2024 at a National Youth Justice Conference and told a room full of people that her advocate gave her someone she could call. She said that person helped her see herself existing in other spaces. Less than 14 months later, she was shot and killed in an apartment she shared with her partner. She survived Baltimore. She survived the justice system. She survived the hardest chapters of her own story. And then she was killed inside a place that was supposed to be home. So here is what I want to leave you with tonight. And I want you to actually sit with these questions, not just scroll past them. If Jasmine Blake genuinely feared for her life, why is there no evidence that Diamond was armed? And if she was not genuinely afraid, what was the emotion driving that moment? Was this a fight that had been building for weeks, months? Were there patterns inside that relationship that people around them sensed but never spoke out loud? And what does it mean that the person who fired the weapon was the one who made the call, who said she's gone before sirens were even in the distance? And perhaps the most uncomfortable question of all. How many people knew something was wrong in that relationship and said nothing because it felt like none of their business? That last one is not a legal question. That is a human question. And I think it is the one Diamond's story is asking all of us right now. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you believe happened inside that apartment? Do you think this was self-defense, or do you see something else? This community finds truth together. And your perspective matters. If this story moved you, if you believe Diamond Rice deserved better and deserves to be remembered, please subscribe to 3AM Files right now. Hit that bell. Share this video. Because the least we can do for people like Diamond is make sure the world does not forget their name.